Hey folks, Miss Gosling here. In this video, you're going to be learning about how to multiply vectors by scalars. By the end of this video, you will of course be able to multiply vectors and scalars together. So when we are multiplying a vector by a scalar, what we're going to do is multiply each component of the vector by the scalar. So what I mean by that, I'm going to use the coordinate form to represent this. Say I have a vector that is 2, 4. So 2 meters in the x-axis, or two units in the x-axis and 4 in the y-axis. And say that I'm multiplying that by a scalar 3. So when I multiply 2, 4 by 3, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply each component by my scalar. So my 2 will become a 6, and my 4 will become a 12. And that is really all there is to it. So let's go ahead and do a couple of examples and make sure that you understand this fully. So example 1, what is 2, 4 times 6? So again, we're going to multiply 2 by 6, and we're going to multiply 4 by 6. And what we'll get is 2, 4 times 6 is equal to 6 times 2, comma, 6 times 4, or doing all of that math, 12, 24. So let's give a slightly more interesting example. And in this example, we're going to be actually talking about an equation that you guys will be using a lot of later in this year. So, force and acceleration are both vectors, while mass is a scalar. A force is equal to mass times acceleration, and acceleration is 1 meter per second squared to the right and 0.5 meters per second squared up. What force will an object with a mass of 0.1 kilograms, I forgot that K here, feel? So let's go ahead and start by simplifying our vectors and our scalars. So our vector here is A, our acceleration, and we can simplify that by writing it as A is equal to 1, 0.5. And so what I'm doing here is just ignoring the units in order to make my vector look a little simpler. Next, let's look at our scalar. So here, our scalar is going to be our mass of 0.1 kilograms. And I know that because mass is a scalar, and that's something that you guys will learn really quickly. So that's part of the definition of mass. The other way I know this is because there's only one number here, and there's no direction given. So if you don't see a direction, you can usually assume that something is a scalar. So my mass is 0.1 kilograms. So let's go ahead and do that math. So F, force, is equal to mass times acceleration. So then that means that it's equal to our scalar, 0.1, times our vector, 1, 0.5. And I can go ahead and multiply each part of my vector by my scalar. And what I get is that my force is equal to 0.1 in the newtons in the x direction and 0.05 newtons in the y direction. And again, you'll see here I added the units back in. You are not expected to be able to work with units yet. However, as you move through the year and very, very quickly, once you're dealing with physics instead of math, you're going to always want to include units. Okay, so as always, we're going to end our video by talking about takeaways. So the main takeaway here is that when you multiply a vector by a scalar, oh, excuse me there, forgot to use the highlighter. Anyway, when you multiply a vector by a scalar, you need to multiply each component by that scalar. So your x component is multiplied by that scalar, your y component is multiplied by that scalar, and if you happen to have a z component, which you will not in this class, that will also be multiplied by the scalar. So there you have it, folks. You now know how to multiply vectors by scalars. Go ahead and give it a try on your own. Happy solving!